Welcome back to Uncharted, the Entrepreneur's Adventure podcast. This is the start of season 2, and I want to kick things off a little differently than we did with season 1. So over the past season, we had lots of conversations with people building businesses, traveling the world, taking risks, starting again and figuring things out the hard way. And if I'm honest, there was a lot of moments in those conversations that stuck with me along the way. Not the big obvious wins, the quieter stuff. The moments where people maybe lost direction, where they questioned who they were, where success didn't feel how they thought it would, and where they had to rebuild not just their business but themselves. So in this episode with Luke Beastall, I'm kind of stepping back from the adventure side of things, and I want to dive into a little more around the purpose, the meaning of everything to the individuals that I am interviewing. And I want you to listen out in this episode in particular, because this is a great episode with Luke. He really dives into his struggles and how he turned things around for himself, and the different kind of sliding doors moments that he had as an individual. And I want you to ask yourself where you might be holding on to an identity that no longer fits, where you're chasing something that doesn't actually move you forward anymore, and where, if you're honest, you know something needs to change, but you haven't really acted on it for whatever reason. Because that's what kind of kept coming up in this episode. Not strategy, not tactics, but the internal shifts that actually change everything. So whether you're building something right now, you may be feeling a bit stuck, or you just know that you're capable of more than what you're currently doing, and you just have a feeling that something maybe isn't quite right, I want you to listen to this episode. It's a cracker to start off season 2. Let's get right into it. Luke, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's great to have you on. Why don't you give our listeners a little taste of who you are and what you do?
Brilliant stuff. Well, Ian, thank you obviously for having us on the show. I'm sure everybody sort of says a very similar thing. But I think what I love most about just to put into this sort of podcast show and giving guests opportunities to just share the story of like the adversity, the highs, the lows, the real rawness of it. So hopefully I can give that to the audience today. But just to give people context, my background is literally from as early as I can remember, probably 3 or 4, I kicked a football. Okay, I got into sort of that sport, played professional in environments, didn't officially sign a full-time contract till I was 16. At 19, I unfortunately exited football, lost my identity, that sort of common spiral that a lot of athletes have, not really sure what to do, where to go, what's the next best step. Everybody's sort of like your social circle. They've grown up, they've matured. You're just like, what do I do now? So for me, I was just in depression. I had a really bad relationship with food. I did overeating episodes. I wouldn't say that I had a real bad problem, but I struggled with my body image. That was through the sport and the pressure. So I just resented football. I think God came up, and then luckily, I've always had great family support. I found fitness. Fitness was my drug. Fitness was my addiction, and that was the thing that I sort of stepped into. And at that moment in time, there was just a bit of an advert to become a personal trainer. And my mum and dad, they'd been on cruise ships, and they'd saw fitness trainers working on cruise ships, and I'd never been on one in my life. And then that, in a way, got me to retire. It forced me to put my boots up. You can't be playing full-time football when you're on a cruise ship all over the world for 9 months, right? So that's where I went, and that led me into the coaching space. Been doing it 10 years, and now I'm very passionate about it's bringing people together. I think obviously we are in a world that is more connected than ever, but we are so disconnected from the real world, from people. We're social beings. So my role, I guess, really as a guide is just to be able to bring the best out in people, obviously very similar to yourself. And yeah, that is my passion, and that's what I do. And if you say who I am, I'm a father of one beautiful daughter, soon to be a dad again. Actually, probably it'll be end of April, so this episode will probably released. We don't know the gender, so excited to be that, a father again, and got a beautiful fiance and a family man. But I'm very much into my well-being and looking after myself so that I can give my best to others. By no means am I a perfect human being, but I hold high standards for myself and others. Yeah, that's a wrap.
Excellent. And do I say congratulations when it's the second child? I've seen some people when they've said congratulations for the second child, and they go, oh yeah, well.
No, to be honest, I don't know whether parents say this, but I'm actually more excited for the second one than I was the first. I don't know whether it's just because I've got a bit of an idea, but I think as well we don't know the gender. With Remy, our daughter, we sort of knew, we wanted to know whether it was boy or girl, just purely through preparation. But this one, we don't know. So I think it's just that anticipation of, is it a boy, is it a girl?
Excitement around it.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Right, there's so many things we could unpack from what you've just said. So I'm going to start right at the beginning, and talk about that journey on the football side of things. So I don't think this is talked about enough actually with professional athletes, because they dedicate their lives from early childhood to get to that level of being a professional, and then to have that just kind of taken away. Like you say, you mentioned you lost your identity. All right, just to talk around what that was like and what was kind of going through your head during those moments.
Yeah, definitely. It's not talked about enough, by the way. And I mean, obviously, I have to say that there was support. Obviously, there was the league football education, which if any footballers or sports people listening to it, they will know about it. But it really didn't give a pathway out of football. Like, it didn't give an exit pathway for me anyway. It didn't give me what I needed the most at that time. So I think for me, I guess because it's been your life for so many years, I think you just don't think it's going to be stripped away from you. I think you just think, like, in my head, all I ever dreamt about was being a professional footballer. So that's all I thought it was going to be. When I left school, everyone was like, the expectations on me and the weight, the pressure on me to become a professional footballer was so heavy. But I didn't feel that. I was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be playing. My dream was to be, a Man United player, right? I'd always been a United supporter and stuff like that. But I think, once it got stripped away, I don't know, it was a bit of a first couple of days. You sort of like, when you get released and you sort of then looking for clubs and you sort of finding like, right, okay, am I going to go semi-professional? Am I going to go to America and do a scholarship? Am I going to go and play in Sweden? Am I going to go and play in Iceland? Because these were sort of the exit strategies and pathways at the time. I was just going, I just want to kick a ball every single day. That's all I've ever been used to. And I couldn't. I was getting told, like, no, you can't. And then there was obviously no money coming in. I mean, I was still living at home at the time. But I lost every bit of connection with myself. I actually didn't know who I actually was, because all I ever knew, and the title of who I was and the stigma, is Luke's the footballer. That's all he is. He's a footballer. So yeah, it was very hard to sort of go, oh, I like to, let's say, for example, I like to just go and walk outside around the lake and just look at the trees, or I like to go and just play table tennis on, hitting it. All I'd ever done was like, just football. There was nothing else but that. So it was just very, very challenging mentally. I think I sort of, rather than myself like going out and finding, I sort of hid and isolated, and that then weighed heavier, because I was fearing that I failed. And I've let everybody else down, when I'm thinking, hold on a minute, it's not about everybody else, but that's the way I felt.
And how did you deal with that label of Luke the footballer at the time when you were a footballer? How did that sit with you at the time? Did you realize how much that was your identity at the time?
No, not really. I think for me, I'm just quite an easygoing person. I'm quite a high energy, passionate sort of guy. So I think for me, I did thrive a little bit off, people sort of, like if I was at school and stuff and we were playing football and you'd pick players for your team, like, I mean, they probably don't do it now because probably people would get upset. But, when you just sort of line up and they'd pick who they want on the team, I'd be the first person to be picked, right? Like, I want Luke on my team because he's a great footballer. I just loved it. I thrived off it. I felt wanted. I felt needed. I think for me, I'd always loved, and I still do to this day, is I like to feel wanted. But then again, the loss of identity come through rejection, and that's been one of the biggest sort of, I don't know, like the heart-sinking, stomach-wrenching feelings is once I got released, because I'd never felt, I mean, in my time in playing football, I mean, even when I signed, youth scholarship at 16, my football career did turn downhill. It spiraled, and I really struggled, because up to 16, I was the top player. I was this star that was going to go and, be. I'm not saying like a Ronaldo or any, but I would have been. I do honestly believe if I had somebody that really believed in me the way I believed in myself at that moment, I do believe I would have been in the Football League.
What's the pressure like then when you're in those youth teams? What is the pressure like? Because from the outside looking in, I'm a massive football fan, Man United fan.
Yeah, nice.
So I grew up with the class of '92 and all that kind of good stuff. I went to watch the FA Youth Cup final when Neville and Beckham and the likes won it
Right.
that year before they then went into the senior team. So I know the kind of pressures of the United side in terms of what they put on the youth team. It's part of the Man United identity.
Of course.
But how can you speak on it in general in terms of on a player specifically? What that is like?
Well, I don't think we had the United pressure like what you're saying about obviously United way is the winning way. They won everything, right? I mean, it was title after title, trophy after trophy. I think for me, I was living away from home first and foremost. So it was sort of like, I'm going to maximize this time. I'm not living, I'm living with families, I'm living with other people. So I didn't want to waste my time. I think that was pressure on that element. But I think day to day, you had heart rate monitors. So there's a lot of data behind what you was doing. So everything was it was in that era of like, we're talking going back to like 2013, 2014. It was that era where, technology really started to improve and a lot of more football clubs, I was at Bury FC. So that's like, obviously like, Manchester way, is that they started bringing in heart rate monitors, body fat calipers, testing, measuring, doing a lot of triple sessions and stuff like that. So I think really for me, it was, am I good enough? Am I on track? Because I was that person that's always wanted to, I'm a leader, I'm a natural leader. So the pressure every single day is high. The way that we deal with it as guys, or the way we used to deal with it as boys in youth team, was we'd banter each other, we'd take the mick, we'd tie each other's shoes up, we'd get bored, we'd play flicks, 2-touch flicks, we'd flicking each other's tabs, and you'd be clean, like we'd be cleaners, we'd be part-time cleaners, we'd clean, the pros football boots, we'd mop floors, we'd pump up balls, we'd wipe. But the pressure was when you got on that, you knew that this 2 years was going to fly by. Am I going to make it pro? You knew the chances were slim. So everybody was fighting for that shirt. Everybody was, every single day, even though there was that banter, deep down, people would do what they could to take your position. And it was hard. This is what I'm saying. It was really hard because I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know who was real. And again, I'd come from such a background of an upbringing where everybody was friendly and everybody rooted for me. But when I stepped into this environment, nobody was really rooting for me because they wanted your position. They wanted that pro contract in front of you.
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind talking about this, but what was the kind of pressure like? You mentioned you didn't want to let anybody else down, but what was that outside pressure like at that time as well? Was there any outside pressure from, I don't know, family, friends, or just people who kind of like you grew up with?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you asked that, because I did have like a leavers book when I left school, and I look back to it now and go, why did I even do that? But I just had a leavers book. Yeah, you can remember. Probably, the same. And it was very much like, I guess for me, I laugh back now. I mean, I've still got it up somewhere in the loft somewhere, but everybody just was like, remember me when you're famous, I can't wait to come and watch you in the stands, Luke, when the the big bright lights are on you and you step over that white line. I can't wait to come and have a beer with you, when you've had your first league appearance. Just little things like that, which probably for a lot of people wouldn't carry weight. It would just be like, oh well, that's normal, but for me, because I wouldn't say I'm so much now, but at that time I loved being the nice guy, like everybody liked me. I wanted to be liked. I got like the most popular at school, and I was that kind of person. I was a people pleaser. So that's where the pressure came, because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to sort of let those people down. From a family point of view, I wasn't sort of a footballer that I felt pressure from my mum and dad in any way where it's like, you're going to do it, son. Like my dad had no previous high-level football he played football amateur-wise, but he never played pro, so it's not like he had a wide array of contacts or got me agents or anything like that. I had to literally find my own way as well with that. So he was very much, I think, as well, what that helped in a way, because he always wanted me to go out and enjoy my football and always had my back.
Nice. And last thing I'll touch on this is, you mentioned all you ever wanted to do was play football, and then you kind of lost it.
Yeah.
But was it the was it the playing of the football, or was there something else behind it? Because we could all go out and have a kickabout with our mates on the park, couldn't we? So was there maybe something else that kind of triggered that loss of identity around the football?
Yeah, definitely. It was the players. It was the environment that I was in, right? I mean, the way I see it, right, is I think if you're in a team, and I wasn't the captain, I used to be a captain before I was 16, I'd pick the players up if I saw somebody who was taking it a bit too far with another guy. I'd be the person that say, hey, listen, come on, like you've had your fun, a team, let's just pack it in sort of thing. Like, we can have a bit of crack, whatever. But it was just getting a bit, so I was sort of a bit of an outsider, right? I wasn't getting played in the team. I was always sort of going into the office asking why. I was knocking on the door. I was doing extra training. I even had a personal trainer at the time at Bury. Nobody knew this, but my dad was funding that because I didn't have no money. I was getting paid like £60 a week. It was peanuts. I was doing what I could to fight to be in that team. But what was going against me is I felt like I was on my own and had nobody backing me. So I had nobody support. Even the manager would laugh at me. And I mean, I won't name his name. I don't think he'll ever come across this podcast, but he ruined my career. I firmly believe that. He came in, I had a manager before that he stepped up to the first team. He was a great guy. He deserved that position anyway, but he signed me on. He gave me a chance. I was literally training because I was at Rotherham originally. And then because I left 3 months in, I had to sort of trial for 6 months, which meant I wasn't getting paid any money. But because I was that guy that showed up every single day and was not getting paid, and my dad was funding it, I didn't want to let my dad down. They eventually signed me because there was he's just got a hard work ethic. He obviously got talent, but what I'm getting at, it wasn't like I was like a Lionel Messi, but it was just like this guy's just he's committed, he's dedicated.
Mm.
And then just as soon as I sort of signed that paper and he came in, he crushed it. And the reason why I believe that he didn't like it is because I stood up for myself. And he was quite an introverted guy. And, he said, the door's always open, lads. Trying to be the nice guy. The door's always open if you've got any questions. I was straight in that office going, can you tell me why? Or can you give me a reason why he is playing in front of me? Because I wanted to play. All I wanted to do was be on that pitch and play. I knew if I got a few games under my belt, because I'd lost all my confidence at this stage. And, I was in down dumps. I couldn't gather my thoughts. And that because I'm that kind of person, I'm quite sensitive. I lost my confidence. I was nervous on the pitch. It's as though if he'd go, all right, I'll give you a game then. Or I'll give you, first 45 minutes, you've got 45 minutes to show yourself. And I was playing left fullback at the time. And, sort of, I don't know, it's sort of like he was setting me up to fail. We were playing against your Liverpools and stuff like that. And I was playing against and then they'd be talking about, you want to watch that right winger, he's coming from Spain. He's been bought for Liverpool for 25 grand or whatever. And you'd be going, already that I'd be getting in my head. So then I'd be nervous, you see. I wouldn't just be going in with that confidence. I'd be going in going, I'm scared to make a mistake, you see. So that just to give your audience context, that pressure just kind of blew me up. And then, I'd go in with my head down into the change rooms and the lads would be like, giving us crack, God, Luke, what time your legs open till, mate? Your nut makes you 3 times, and it's all funny now, but at the time it just wasn't funny. And then they'd be saying oh man, you got rinsed by him. What, you just got to go. Nobody was saying, Luke, listen, nobody put the arm around me as a captain. They just all just battered me down. And look, I'm not saying that maybe I should have been harder as a man, but I just didn't feel I had anybody there in that team that could support me. And that's where I believe. And I did I spoke up, I tried, but then I went in my shell because I thought, well, what's the point in trying, because nobody's there. And the lads I've got, I don't really respect any of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it was rough.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the turning point then for you after you'd been through that period? You'd lost the contract and you're not playing professionally anymore. What was the kind of turning point in your life where you started picking things back up?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's pretty doom and gloom, innit? No, I think for me, it was just I had to immerse in something different because all I ever knew was football. So after I left, I was still giving it a good go for 2 years. I was working with my dad, engineer, and he's got his own business. Didn't want to do it. I could have easily gone in the family business and just had quite a cushy life, really. Well, not cushy, but, I could have had a decent living, all that. He said to me, he said, Luke, he goes, and this is what's really important, I think, when people check in with people, is he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I was going to the gym every day. I still didn't have on my mind to become a personal trainer. It's obvious there was personal trainers in the gym, but I didn't ever say I wanted to be a personal trainer. Oh, like, we can honestly say this about coaches, different pair of eyes, different pair of minds, different perspectives, is that's the power of that. Somebody just sort of stepping out, zoom out into your world and go, but have you considered that? So that's what my dad did. I've just been, me and your mum's just been on a cruise ship. We saw a trainer out there on the beach with coronas, playing volleyball, looking fit, around lots of women, because I was pretty boring at that point in my life, not around any girls, isolating. So I just went, do you know what? That sounds a bit of me. I'm gonna give it a go. I need to do something. I can't be doing this life that I'm doing. I was pretty miserable. That was it. That was the turning point. I went on a 6-week in-person course and I met a guy on there. His name's Justin. And I'll never forget, it was so ironic that he'd said when he introduced himself, guys, I'm your tutor. He introduced what he did and stuff like that, how he was in the industry. And he'd been on cruise ships for 4 years. I was like, no way. This is mental. Asked him and he went, yeah, oh mate, there were loads of girls on there. It were lots of fun, doing this, doing that, learning sales, learning marketing, because you're selling sort of product on cruise ships, on commission basis sort of work. But you're traveling the world and you're in a different place every day. And what I thought, oh, that sounds a bit of me. So basically, did the 6-week course, passed with flying colours, and then the PT company partnered with a cruise ship company. That was their sort of like, they all collaborated like businesses do. And I went down there for 3 weeks in a hostel, and then before I know it, I'm getting offered this cruise ship contract for 9 months and flying out to Vancouver. So basically, to give your audience context, from May 2018, I was on trial at Motherwell in Scotland, and then September 2018, I was in Vancouver, and I was going around Alaska. And, I'd walked onto that cruise ship, and do you know what was the most refreshing feeling, Ian? Nobody knew I was a footballer or was a footballer. That was my reinvention phase. That was my new, okay, Luke, let's rebuild. Let's find this new identity. Let's see who you are now, because nobody knows you. No one's judging. I think that's the biggest word, isn't it? Like judgment of, have you made it? Or that expectation of, how's your football going? Nobody asked me that question. And I tell you what, it was amazing.
Nice. Just before I pick up on a couple of other points from what you were saying then, tell me about Alaska. It's one place I didn't go when, so I went traveling around the US back in 2013, but never made it. We never went to Alaska or Hawaii. Those were the only two states that we kind of never went to. So tell me about Alaska.
So I've done Alaska and Hawaii. Yeah, well, it was the way the cruise ship sort of, moved over. We moved over to Australia. So it was sort of, I did obviously Vancouver, and then, you sort of go around Alaska. Obviously, you went around the sort of coastline parts like Juneau, Skagway, I think it's Skagway. And then I can't remember the other one. Obviously, we did a glacier and stuff like that. Look, I mean, I did the whole helicopter onto the glacier and the husky dogs and did all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I think it's just one of those places that, I mean, the salmon, by the way, Alaskan salmon, I know you hear about that, is just, it really lives up to what people think it is. It's unbelievable. The sort of crab as well. There was like a crab shack and stuff like that. The food is just ridiculously fresh. It's like clean as the water is. You could drink the water from the stream everywhere you go. There's loads of trains. It's all Rocky Mountains. It's very, very like pine tree sort of place of, yeah. Bears, wild bears, like you could see bear in a wild bear, like, well, come on, this it to me, being in a town that was run down and just full of sort of hairdressers, takeaways, charity shops, to then going out to, seeing a place like this, it was just, I genuinely felt like I was in a dream. I had to pinch myself quite a couple of times, and then, going on the cruise, and it was going into a glacier, and you literally as close as you're not like touching it, because obviously the ship couldn't get that close, but it was just I stood on a glacier, and I've had photos there, and Hawaii as well. I surfed there for the first time in life, did a skydive there, and this was all within 3 or 4 weeks of me making this leap. It was so overwhelming. I didn't sleep much because the time zone kept changing every day because the hours was changing because we were going over to Australia. But I think just in terms of like that, the word environment, that shift, that dramatic shift I needed. I didn't know I needed it that much. And trust me, it wasn't all amazing. I know people would see photos and go, gosh, this guy's living the dream. But the work, the stuff I had to do and the amount of feelings of wanting to go home was very, very real. There was many, many times that I did not want to fulfill that 9-month contract away at sea.
Yeah. So was it 9 months constantly on the ship then?
Well, it
obviously
was
when you port at different places,
yeah,
but without any kind of return home.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 9 months. Yeah, I needed it though. This was the thing. I was destined for commitment. I was all over the place. Like I say, I wanted to quit. Literally, I had a football club in New Zealand offer me a contract because we was doing New Zealand and Australia. Within 3 months, I had a football club go, Luke, we've got your car, we've got your house, we'll pay you XYZ. It's semi-pro, it's not pro, but it's a good platform to sort of expose. And the guy was literally writing up an article on me and everything. He was like, you can be captain of the team. I was very much like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can get off in Auckland and just go. But I said to my dad, I was like, look, Dad, I've got this. And he says, Luke, this is what you're playing at. What are you doing? You said you're done with football. You need to give this a go. And I did. I turned it down very hard because I hate turning things down. I'm the yes man. Well, not so much now, but I was the yes man then. Like, yeah. Let's try it. Let's give it a go. Yeah, it was tough, but it was the best decision I made.
I was going to say sliding doors moment, right? That
very much
decision in that moment. Yeah.
It was tough. It was very hard because the guy, gosh, his name's Ian actually. Ian McGill, his name was. I think he still lives out in New Zealand, but yeah, he offered me. It's like he just put everything on a golden plate. I've not had that before. I was always trying to fight, but this guy was like, "We want you." So it was that, and I said, I like feeling wanted. So it was like magnetizing me in. But then I was like, I've got this life, I'm starting to create this new identity. And even then, like the role that I was in, I was struggling. I wasn't doing well. I wasn't earning much sales and doing all this. I was sort of kind of near towards the bottom. But you learn, don't you? Have to go through these phases.
Yeah, every kind of comeback has a down point at the start, right? They call it a comeback for a reason.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us a bit more about the kind of work that you did on the cruise ships then. So you're a personal trainer on the cruise ship.
Yeah,
cruise ships.
You can say it.
Tell us about that and what that was like. Did you just do a 9-month stretch and that was it on the cruise ships, or was you doing it over a couple of years or so? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So total 2.5 years. I sort of stepped away. I said May 2018. Why is that? May 2015. I left football and then went on September 2015. I left ships in May 2018. So I did 2.5 contracts and 9 months, and then I had like 6 months off. I said I was only going to do one. So when I did my 9 months, I was like, I'm done. I think it was just purely because I was exhausted. But I met a girl from New York. So on this, obviously, I went out to New York for 3 months, and then I sort of had 3 months at home, and then like still didn't know what to do with myself. And that's the only thing I knew. So I was like, right. I got in touch with a cruise ship company that I'd been part of. I did really well. I got really good at the end. So it was like, yeah, we'll give you any ship really. What do you want? So I was like, I want Royal Caribbean. So I went on that cruise line. But day to day, I mean, look, yes, you're teaching classes. So you're doing like stretch classes, boot camps, yogas, Pilates. But I mean, we're doing yoga on private islands, right? We're doing sunrise yoga. It was unbelievable. You're just like on a Coco Cay, like Bahama Island. And, there's literally the cruise ship guests that are on there, and you're teaching yoga at, like looking out at the sea. It was one of them moments again where you think, I'll probably never do this again. Or at this moment of my life, at 22 years of age, doing that was just, crazy to think like where my life was just 9 months ago. But yeah, so what you do is you sort of do public speaking. So I had to learn to come out of my shell and speak with people again, which, as I said to you early on, saying about I was speaking up and then I wasn't being heard, I felt that resistance of going out again because I felt like I was going to get rejected or nobody wanted to hear me. But I sort of worked through it again. I found a different way. So what I was doing is I was sort of getting guests. I know people find this hard to believe on a cruise, but I was getting people to sign up for like a health and wellness seminar to talk about metabolism and how to lose fat and to how to improve your well-being. Now, I know it seems a bit sort of I don't know, an odd one, because you go on a cruise ship and you eat loads of food and you enjoy yourself. But actually, it slowed people down. A lot of people, when they went away, they sort of was able to absorb a little bit more information, and a bit more like, maybe they do look at the cruise and go, if I want to keep experiencing things like that, I probably do need to look after myself a little bit more, right? Because there's no point in having all the money and feeling like absolute crap. They'd come in the gym. A lot more people would come in the gym. The gyms on cruise ships are better than some in towns, right? They're ridiculous, some of them. And I would just public talk. So I'd have a headset on, I'd have a whiteboard, it'd be, pens and stuff like that, and I'd be talking. And then obviously at the end, I'd be inviting someone into a consultation, and I'd be doing a diagram and talking about the health. And then I'd be basically providing them with a package of a supplement there's like a herbal supplement, it was, with obviously nutrition consult, this is all stuff they've provided us. It wasn't my own material.
Mm.
And then obviously what I'd do is I would bespokely create them the training, because I was sort of qualified in that. So then, it'd be sort of a take-home care package, I guess. But the greatest thing is I never saw him again. So so for example, it'd be, yes, I would keep in touch with some of the guests to see how they got on, but it was very much like, if you had a bit of a rough 7 days or 14 days it was, you'd be like, right, see ya. And then new fresh faces come on. So it was like a bit of a reset. It was good sometimes for that.
Nice. And what was the kind of break point from the cruise ships, and what did you go on to do then?
Well, so obviously I was fitness coaching, and I sort of saw this emerging of online coaches, right? So I loved the traveling, and it was this laptop lifestyle, right? So you just saw everywhere, people sat behind laptops, adverts, people sat behind laptops and going, I'm earning 10K a month and I'm doing 6 figures, blah, 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 in Bali, all this. And I thought, well, I don't know whether I just want to sit, I just want to keep traveling, but that sounds pretty cool, because I was on this travel bug. So I thought, this would be nice, travel the world. So this guy that I knew in the local area, he was well known, and he was a great coach, and he put an advert out looking for like a coach in his business, like an online coach. And I thought, oh, I'll tell you what, I might do that. I might do that around my cruise ship work as well. That was never going to happen in different time zones. Nah, it was. But he offered me the position, and I thought, well, this was at a point when I was sort of getting tired of cruise ships. So I sort of left that, and I've never gone back since. Joined his team, signed up with him for a year. But what happened was, I noticed that I'm quite a social being. So I like being around people, like love conversations like this. I don't know, like I'd been to South Africa, I went back out to New York, I'd been to Holland, I'd done a few, but I was on my own. And I was like, as much as I had a lot of like social bandwidth and all that stuff, I don't know. I think the cruise ship, because that was different social, because everyone's sort of in one place and you have to, mingle and whatever.
Mm.
I don't know. The traveling, I thought, I don't know. I'm getting a little bit like, I'm over it. And then the laptop lifestyle, what I thought it was going to be, was not that. And I was like, well, I'm quite lonely. My dad was just like, Luke, all you do all day is set your camera up and talk to camera and talk about like maybe nutritional stuff or training tips and all that. And you do lives and you listen to podcasts or you read books. Man, you need to be around people, because I was still living at home. I'd literally rinsed all my money when I was on cruise ships traveling, obviously, and stuff like that. So this was when I was like 25, and there was an advert come up again for a gym that just opened up in our local area. So I went there as a personal trainer. And so I basically, alongside this online coaching role, I had my own brand, Muscle Coach. I set up my PT, and I can remember walking through those doors. It was brand new gym, Anytime Fitness, with like 500 members. I said, I want to own this gym. I want to build a community in this gym. And within 9 months, I was oversubscribed.
Nice. And talk to me about that community side of things then. Talk to us about that. I found it, as you were talking earlier at the start, I found it quite interesting that you were talking about feeling so lonely and not having the support around you.
Yeah.
And here you are now creating a community of people to support each other. I find it quite a nice kind of full circle that you've done. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own people, right? So, you're going to be put in environments where maybe you think it's your people, but then, you keep showing up, excuse me, and then eventually it's not your people. So I've done a lot of that, right? I've been in mentorships. Okay. I've been in networking groups. I've paid subscriptions. I've invested over 6 figures in my business, right? In 2 years, I invested over 6 figures. I went all in, like on it. So I was thinking, okay, why am I being led by others on them telling me what I should be doing because I've got this FOMO? So this is where I lost, and talking about identity again, I did start to lose my identity in business. So I lost it in football and I lost it in business. So, and something that kept coming back and screaming at me in my head was, Luke, you've got to be yourself, Luke, like be you, like be unapologetically you, just like be this intense guy that people sort of like fall off the back of their seat because you're like, whoa, this guy is full on. Okay, well, that's you. That's who you are. Okay. So I did that with personal training, did really well. Left personal training, tried to go back online again, hired a mentor because that was after COVID, sort of the next transition, I guess. Stripped me away from all the stuff that I was doing, which was great. I left it to think that it was going to be better. And then I've like done a full circle moment and come back to it. And then I've sort of set up this community. But I think for me, it's like what I attract is really, really interesting because everybody talks about sort of like niche communities, and I understand niche has a place, but I don't. My niche is inclusive. My niche is all abilities and all different walks of life. It's not a specific performer or a man or a woman. It's any age, any ability. I'm here for it because I've always been that. Even when I was at school with people, I was around goths. I was around tramps, even if you call tramps people, popular people. So for me, I think community, and I learned so much about different types of people, and I love listening. I think that's another thing. I know I love talking because obviously, I'm sort of in the spotlight, but I've got my own podcast show as well, and I put people on the other side, and I don't know. I just find that you're going to learn so much more from another individual than you would from a book. I know you've got loads of books in the background. I've read quite a few books myself, but I just don't think you can beat that human connection personally, and that's why I'm so passionate about building people because I don't think you can beat that. When you sort of see somebody when they're in a dark place, or you see somebody that's actually shared something that you can see it in them that it took a lot for them to share that, and somebody puts the arm around them or gives them a high five or gives them a hug, and you see how much it's like oh my God, like someone's that I don't know. I don't think you can ever no money, not one. It will never ever 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 replace that, and that is the power of human beings.
Yeah, and I can say from personal experience, having done that myself, in terms of being that person who's struggled to share something with someone who I don't know. I've just met them in this community thing, and I've shared something with them that I've basically never told anyone before. It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful, powerful thing. The vulnerability you feel in it, but then the kind of weight that is lifted off your shoulders is liberating, I'd like to say. But talk to us a bit more about that community side of things and what it is you're doing. So is it personal training, fitness wise, but then you're mixing in coaching with that as well?
Yeah. So the community is that. I mean, look, it's interesting because I'm sort of like a jack of all trades now. It's sort of like I've built up this, again, skill, but I do have obviously things that I sort of prioritize. So yes, I mean, fitness and well-being coaching in person, bit online as well. Obviously I know some people can't all do the in-person stuff. So for them, it's an option if they're up and down country or whatever, or they're there and everywhere. They just can't be in one place. So for them, they still got that opportunity, right? It's accessible. I've got a run club as well. So I set up a social run club back last year because look, for me, moving and running, I don't know, it sort of gave me that slowing down feeling, really, and it made me feel free. Okay, so like 2024 was a big year for me that I sort of called the theme of the year, space. So running, doing ultras, running in mountains. I ran around Jersey. I did the island of Jersey, which was fantastic. I did Bakewell, so I did like 40, 45, 6 miles, something like that. Ridiculous running. I love it. And I fell in love with that. And again, I got close to nature, sort of in a way that it was just freeing. Okay, so I set up Run Free Collective. So Run Free Collective came and was born through what I struggled with, that loneliness piece. But what I realized is that I've set it up in a village where I live. And you see these run clubs in like cities, and you see them all, all young people, and I'm not saying that there's not other communities out there, but we're building a city community in a village. But I've got people in our group that's like 70. And then I've got people that are a boy that comes with his mum that's 3. And he's running with her while she's got the other girl, in a fit buggy, right? So imagine that like people are being around that and they're seeing all those different diverse types of people thinking, I can't do it, they can't do it, whatever they're thinking. And we go for a 5K, like we're literally doing it this Sunday. We go for a 5K and we put money back into the local area. So everybody buys a drink. It's not into a franchise, it's into an independent coffee shop. So we're giving back to the local community. And I do this free. It's non-profit. If people go, well, what do you get out of it, Luke? I'm helping people, right? But actually, people have started signing up with me through training because, well, the gym that I actually work at in the local area, well, that's where one of the run clubs starts from, you know? I didn't intentionally set it up for that. I thought, well, I'm here. I'm training a client before. So let's just do a run after and we'll do a 5K. So it's a 5K. It's for all abilities. So that's one community, the run club. You know, we get like 30 to 40 on each run. You know, we did a 10K sort of run last year and had 8 people there. We've had sponsors involved and stuff like that. So it's quite surprising actually how many people like these big brands want to support you when it's something for the community and mental health and physical health. And it really is great. So that's like the other thing, the fitness. And then the other thing is I've got a podcast community. Obviously I only interview, like obviously you do yourself, like business owners, entrepreneurs. Yeah, I want to be able to give back to people that probably they wouldn't know in a book, right? Or they've never come across in a book. It doesn't matter how many personal development books you read, right? You could call it shelf development rather than personal development. Is that for me, that's where I learn. I learn from humans. I learn from being in the rooms with these people. Like your network is your net worth, but you can't beat that being in person. And that's what I want to do, right? That's what community is. It's bringing people together, right? I mean, I've had people in my room I've had people in the run club in the village that some of those, if you want to talk about like business or whatever, some of those are multimillionaires. Well, they don't come there dressed up, showing that they don't drive into the car park with a Ferrari, you know? They just want to come in and feel normal. Feel normal. I don't want to have a conversation and talk about how much I've got in the bank, you know? And that's what I love bringing to the community and helping people know that, hey, listen, there's an opportunity here to come out and not feel like you've got to look at your pace, be on Strava and, you know, be at the front and sprint and tell everybody what speed you're in. I've smashed my PB, right? You can come here and just feel relaxed and just have a chat with your mates and have a social. So that's been massive. That's been so key. And do you know what's really interesting? And this statistics proving this, the amount of people that open up shoulder to shoulder rather than directly opposite, shoulder to shoulder rather than directly opposite is mad. So obviously that's what running is, right? You're running next to somebody and you just go, you know, you're chatting about your day or what you get up to. You know, a lot of people have mentally, I know that, have improved.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you're doing with that. I really do. And you talked then when you mentioned that you're doing running for yourself initially, and it kind of helped you feel free. Yeah. And I get the exact same feeling. Not when I'm running because I hate running, but when I'm hiking out in the mountains and your feet, you're just kind of that on the trail noise of the dirt and the gravel under your feet as you're walking. It's just that pure freedom, just absolute pure freedom, and it just allows you to step away from the noise of every day to just be who you were meant to be, and that's why I love it. And I love what you're doing there. And it's interesting you say that that shoulder to shoulder and opening up. I saw I think it was on Instagram. It might have been I think it was Instagram, and it was it was a trending kind of thing that people were doing, and it was women kind of criticizing men for doing anything but going to therapy. So men will go out into the mountains instead of going therapy. Men will go and build stuff instead of going to therapy and all this. And I'm like, that is the therapy. It's like, you don't get it. Yeah. That is the therapy. Not everyone needs to sit face to face and talk with someone. Just doing something can be the therapy. And if you've got someone with you, by all means, chat with them, which will help even more as well. But for me, that is is the therapy. It's quite interesting when you said that. It just brought that back to mind, which is something I saw recently.
Just quickly interrupting this episode for one second, bear with me. Most entrepreneurs, business owners, when they first start out, think the hard part is actually building the business, but it's not. Hard part is what comes after you've built the business, when everything looks fine on the outside, but internally something's just missing. You can feel that there's just more for you out there than just this cage that you created yourself. You might have thought you escaped that cage when you left your 9 to 5 to create your own business, but you've found that you've wound up creating another cage. That's the part no one talks about. And that's the part that you're not meant to do alone. That's why I've created something called the Legion. It's a group of business founders, entrepreneurs, change makers who refuse to stay drifting, who refuse to go from one year after another, on repeat. It's for people who take ownership of their lives, want more than just money. They want purpose, freedom, and adventure. They want a challenge and a life that actually means something to them. And so inside the Legion, we speak honestly, we push each other, and we grow together, because the truth is, don't need more information. You need the right people around you. And that is what the Legion is for. So if you're done with this feeling of there must be something more out there for me, that gut-wrenching pull for something more, then come join us in the Legion. The link is in the description of the show. Now let's get back to it.
No, I think that's brilliant. And think about it from a general point of view. Like when I heard this from a guy actually who's set up a charity called 2 Pints Deep, actually. And I've done a bit of fundraising for him. He was talking about, guys, like when guys used to have sleepovers back in the day as kids, you'd just play video games, you'd go outside, adventure, all that kind of stuff. But girls, all they do is chat. They'd talk, they'd chat, whatever guys wouldn't. Even though, so girls are a bit more like, if you talk about a social setting, girls will go out and drink, they'll talk a little bit more around cafes and bars and whatever, whereas guys, all they probably talk about in, banter and crack, and they'd cover up their emotions by taking the mick out of each other in a way, right? But, when you sort of bring them to that environment where there's a bit of challenge involved and movement and stuff like you're saying, going out in nature, and obviously if I'm talking about running perspective, if somebody starts opening or takes the lid off, it's very interesting how then it sort of like compounds, and then it goes one and then another and then another and then another. We had a guy I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I had one of the runners come up to me, and she sort of said, Mick he dropped to the back, because he normally sits in the middle. He dropped to the back and just literally poured his eye out to me. I was like, okay, was he okay? Yeah. He thanked me at the end just for like, that was on the whole run. So, he never said anything to me, but that was it. That was his space that he needed. So I'm grateful for that, because I was able to create that space for him to just drop back with one of the runners and feel safe enough. And he felt so much better. It's mad, and I think that's the thing, that space, creating that space. I had my space, like, when I started it, or when I started running, I had my space, like you have your space and you bring people together. But as we are social beings and we're tribal, we will start something on our own. We want people to know about it. We are destined to want people to feel the same feeling that we've got. So we'll try and do our best to bring people into what we do. And it happens everywhere. The thing is that's why most people, if I look at like what I've created, and I'm sure you're the same, we've always created what we've needed the most in that moment. Always. Always. So then literally every time, whatever it is, wherever we are in what stage of our life, we've created it. And then we're like, right, we need to tell the world. I know that more people need to know about this. Like, I know I need more people to stop feeling pressured to hit a certain target, because that's all I'd always had expectation in my life. Luke's expected to be a footballer. Luke's expected to be fit because he's a personal trainer. He's got to look shredded, right? No, I don't. But that was the expectation I had. So I was like, well, let's remove all that. And what about, rather than just sort of running into the ground and burning out, why not run free? Why not just run and just let everything go? And that's where it comes from. And, that community has stemmed and brought the community closer together.
I think, like I say, I love what you're talking about there and what you're doing. And I think community, especially now these days when people are so kind of isolated to their phones,
Sure.
they're just constantly doom scrolling the car, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
reason I have social media is to watch people hiking in the mountains and cooking barbecue food. But that's just me. But I think community now more than ever is going to be such a big thing for people to want and need to get involved in. So, I mean, I'm looking at setting up my own community as well off the back of this podcast and the coaching that I do and everything, because it just feels like it's the right thing to do, and it's the best way I can help people from that kind of doom scrolling as well. So yeah, love what you're doing there. But tell me what the kind of big vision and big dream is for what you've got moving forward, if there is one.
Yeah. Oh God, there is one. Of course there is. Right. So I think for me it's global. Right. So I want to. So if I talk about fitness, right, that's where I'll be honest with my sort of personal training that I do. It is going to be pretty limited. Right. It's time v money. So that's the trade off. More time, more money. Right. But obviously I'm very, very aware that I've got a family and I've got to look after them and provide for them, but also got to look after myself most importantly. So there is a bit of a limit there. But the global impact that I want to have is that, people have opportunity to change, and it takes one decision and one simple yes to just be open. So everything that I do, I want to be able to take Run Free Collective probably on a UK tour, and that'd be pretty epic, going to different, not cities. I don't want to go to cities. I want to go to villages. Okay. I want to show villages. I want to show towns that it's not always about the big dogs and the big apples and look at us, right? And the big tall buildings. Because you know what? I don't know about you, but those big tall buildings sometimes intimidate me. I feel a bit enclosed. I feel a bit trapped. What about taking them? Yeah. So if I've been right, well, listen to it, Ian. If I've been running in mountains, right? Because I've done loads of trail running, why would I then take a UK tour to cities? Yeah. So that's why I need to take it on a UK tour. I'd also love to podcast whilst moving. So I'd love to do a podcast whilst running. Don't know how that will logistically work, but that would be epic. Because what it does, it brings in everything that I love to do, but it will also have a massive impact on people's lives. And it would bring out some serious amount of insights that, obviously, yes, you've got to get because I've got people who help me out with content. I've got a videographer and I've got somebody else out at the run club, for free, right? Because I don't get paid. Nobody, it's just, there's no money involved, which that really helps, because once money gets involved, it can get a bit, as you know, people go, where's it going? What's that? Well, it gets quite toxic. But what will happen is endorsement, sponsorship. It might be where we get brands behind us where that'll grow. But I think for me, I will always say this, I can see me going around the world again at some stage, not right now, and just going in and helping people build communities and helping people, if they've been through something similar, identity loss or whatever, like public speaker, global run coach, global run club creator, whatever that, I don't know what that name's going to be, but I just can see myself hitting the masses and continually changing people's lives. And I love being around people. So whatever that is, whether it's, there's loads of things. It could go anywhere. But I just know that I'm here on this world for however long I live. I'm always going to give to people. I'm always going to change people's lives. And I'm going to bring good energy to the world. And that's it.
Nice. I absolutely love that. There's, you said then about maybe taking a podcast on one of these runs with you.
Yeah, it'd be epic.
Like you, I just love that, the idea of that and the conversations that you'd be able to have with people. Like we're talking.
Yeah.
People opening up when they're shoulder to shoulder, some of the kind of deep conversations that you'll be able to have. I don't know how it'll go with being out of breath though. That might.
Well, it might not be going on the 2,500 meter elevation runs and just sort of sticking to the flat roads. Maybe, I don't know, but I just think that'd be so good. And I'd love to do as well whilst doing that, Ian. I mean, I'd love to raise funds for people, but it wouldn't be for therapy. Right, it wouldn't be for something like it would be for people to have an opportunity to be in environments where they can change, So like retreats, men's circles, women's circles, just something that I would believe would change someone's life, which I know it would. I'll put my hands up and say that, I did have a sports therapist. It didn't work for me. I'm not saying it doesn't work for people, and I'm not, the guy I had was amazing, but again, I'm not that person that can sit opposite somebody and just them to sit and listen. I can't. I've got to have engagement. I've got to have challenge. I need someone to challenge me. But I'm better challenged when I'm moving than being stagnant, because when I'm stagnant and my mind's like stagnant, I can lose, because my brain's going at 100 miles an hour. I need something to challenge it and slow me down. So if I'm sat in a room with somebody, I'm feeling pressure, right? So I'm going, a bit more, and he's got, these rooms like dark lights and there's books in background, and you sort of seen him on a Chesterfield sofa with his legs crossed. You sort of like feel a bit sort of, and then, that's what it was then. I mean, we're going back years. I don't know if it's still like that now. But, I'm not saying that they didn't help me feel better. I did. I cried. I let it all out, but nothing changed. Nothing changed after for me. I felt better, but what's helped me is like, I don't know, like when I've done an ultra, for example, it's, oh gosh, I'm absolutely, my legs and body's battered. And I did one in Montenegro last year, and I was like 40K in, 40 kilometers, and it was 22 kilometers to go, and I was up this mountain, and genuinely, I was like, just the terrain was insane, and my body was absolutely in agony. I generally my body was telling me every excuse to get out of this race, but I just kept saying 1 kilometer at a time, and I ended up completing the race. Mentally, that was therapy for me. Being able to get over that barrier of, I can't do this. Yeah, I mean, I know I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I think that would be, obviously I don't know the answers to it, but that is my dream. So if you ever see that happen in years to come in, then you've heard it here first.
Beautiful. I love that. What you're talking about then, in terms of having that mental ability to push through and get over the body telling you that you're done, because we all know. Well, I say we all know. Not everybody does, but as coaches, we kind of know it's more of a mental game than physical a lot of the time. So
yeah.
And again, for me, when I'm out on my hikes and I'm doing kind of long distance hiking and everything, there's points where you're just like, no, I am not getting up that.
Well, yeah,
but you just kind of push through. It becomes that mental game, and it's amazing the results that moment can have elsewhere in your life when you apply that kind of resilience to and confidence in your own abilities to the rest of your life. Luke, talk to us a little bit about your podcast. You've only touched on it a little bit, but I'm keen to hear a bit more about it for the listeners.
Yeah, I will. I've just, while it's on my mind, Ian, because I don't want to lose this trail of thought that I was just thinking, if you don't mind me just sort of saying this.
Yeah.
Talking about mountains, right? You've probably heard this, haven't you? Everybody wants to see the view, but they don't want to do the climb.
Don't want to do the climb,
Yeah. Everybody wants to see the view, but don't want to do the climb. So that's why you just saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it. But then when you get to the top and you see it and you see the world and you sort of see that, I can't believe I've just done that. But then obviously the view at the top, bliss. So you just sort of like that euphoria feeling of like, get in there. And then you're like, oh, I've got to go back down now. but and it's even harder on the legs. So yeah, just going into the podcast, again, this comes from identity loss, right? So everything that I've done has come from an experience. Beyond the Boardroom is the name of the podcast. It's Master Your Life. So Master Your Life, Beyond the Boardroom. I set up a business, and I share this quite openly. I invested 10 grand into it, and it failed miserably. I had all the bells and whistles, where it had all the fancy stuff. It was called Master Your Life. That's what it was called, Master Your Life. What I realized was it didn't really have any sort of, I don't know, clear message. So it was basically a lifestyle program where me and my fiance, she was coaching women, I was coaching men, and we're going to coach couples. That's what we wanted to do, and help them build, a holistic sort of lifestyle where, there was, like I say, providing we was already thinking about family. We didn't have Remy at the time, but it was very much about fill your own cup up first before sort of filling others up. It was all that sort of jazz. So it failed, right? So I was like, oh, I love that name though, Master Your Life. Look, what am I going to do with it? So I was sort of flying around and chatting around. I was chatting to a couple of people, and the name Beyond the Boardroom at the time was sort of available on sort of Apple. And this was like February. No, I got the name actually in November 2023. I got the name, but I didn't officially launch my first or get my first episode out till February the 1st, 2024. But what it was about is like, who are you? Who are you beyond your work? So I can remember, and I'll plug the guy in because, you know, I was part of his mentorship program, Joe Parrish. He said to me, he says, Luke, you know, if I strip your business away from you today, and I'll cover everything in your business for the next 48 hours, tell me what you can do. Who are you? I couldn't answer it. I was like, whoa, I didn't know what to say. I was, because again, it was that all I ever knew was work. So it was like one addiction went to the other, right? So it was like gone from like football addiction, training every day, to then working every day, and then being addicted and just work. And all I ever thought about was work. I mean, I still do now, but there is different things and I manage it better and stuff like that. I never truly switch off, right? Because I love what I do, but these recharge breaks, these slow down periods, this time off. So I wanted to create a platform where I stripped away what most business owners do day to day, i.e. corporate world, because I went into a bit of corporate wellness where everything was scripted, everything was driven by statistics, everything was like rigid, everything was pressure, everything was transactional, everything was just do this, do that, crack on that, work till 10, get up, burn out, I don't care about you, smash yourself, which we you know, and I was like, I just want to bring somebody in, like say like we are now on Riverside, because I use Riverside as well, and just we're gonna have a free flow conversation. I don't really know you. I can see a bit of you online. I can see you're an entrepreneur. That's all that really matters, that you're a business owner. I want to know. Yeah, I want to know what's your unique ability. You know, what shaped you? What's, you know, and you get into those deep questions. And I don't know. It's, for me, it's been the best personal development tool that's free. It's time and energy, right? We're both committing time and energy, like we are now on a Friday. But it's given so much back to me that I've been able to give to others through the conversations. And I hold an hour space as well. And the platform we've released, I think, like over 108 episodes now. You know, we're sort of in a great place. We've had sponsorship before as well. It's going well. But people want more stories. They love stories. They love that relatability, that resonance, and that, oh my gosh, I'm not on my own here. Because what you see online is people show the glam, but they're empty. You know, they show the Dubai lifestyle and then they broke when they're out there. You know, it's like, I don't know. I just think people, yeah, you know, connection again, talking about connection, but it's just, I guess it's that global impact where, you know, I mean, my dream is obviously for the podcast to be a show. I'd love for it to be, again, I think I'd love to bring it in person somewhere, like have a TV show or, you know, have a live audience and be able to do that. Cause I think I don't really see that very often. I mean, you see it on Traitors, right? Like Traitors have a podcast show after and stuff like that. But I'd love to do that with just normal people. I don't want to do it with celebrities. You know, I don't want to be like this big Stephen Bartlett guy. I mean, I aspire to his podcast, but I would just like to do it again with just down to earth, different types of people. Like all the business owners that I have on are all different. It's not like, again, I'm just talking to people that are, I don't know, high performance coaches that coach CEOs. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't think you can beat that depth. I'm very much about 1 mile deep rather than 1 mile wide. And the thing is when I coach people, I don't have loads of clients, but I'm a bit more premium. But I focus on the person. I want to get to know who the dog is, who the cat is, what they love doing, you know, because you just have so much more fun that way, you know, and life's too short to be trying to, I mean, I just don't know how, honestly, I know I'm going off a tangent. I just don't know how these people can work with hundreds of people and think that they're having, I just don't know how that can be fulfilling. I just don't know. I can't get my head around it, how you can work with 100 people and know them intentionally, deeply, and actually have a relationship and connection with them. Yeah.
Look, we're very similar in that regard, in quite a bit actually, in what you've been talking about. I was talking with my coach about this podcast and where I want it to go and the community I want to create off the back of it, and events that I want to host and do live recordings of the podcast. And I'm even thinking about, so I was talking, I can't remember where we were talking before we hit record, when I was talking about the retreats that I host. I'm even kind of going to bring in live campfire recordings of the podcast there, because I absolutely love. I'd do this even if there was no money in it whatsoever, and there isn't at the minute. There's absolutely no money in this podcast whatsoever, but I just love the conversations that I'm having, and like you, it's kind of like I get more out of it than the millions of books that I've got, because I do love reading as well. But yeah, I
Yeah,
get more
same,
out of these
same.
conversations than any of them. So yeah, I'm wishing you all the best with that. Luke, quickly again, name of the podcast was Beyond the Boardroom.
Yeah, Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. Yeah, so you'll just see
Master
me.
Your Life Beyond the
Yeah,
Boardroom.
you just see. Yeah, you'll see me on there anyway. Yeah.
Excellent. And community, which community are you going into next?
So if honestly, if people just search my name like LinkedIn's more podcast. That's where they'll see all the sort of content in and around that. There's a bit of Run Club stuff on there. So obviously based Derbyshire way. So anybody in the Derbyshire region in the UK, feel free to come along on a run. They're always free. So that's an opportunity there for you. Obviously, yeah, fitness training, fitness coaching. Again, that's Muscle Coach, which I've got a website for that. If I don't know if you had that in show notes or not, but yeah, happy to happy to share that with you and your listeners. But yeah, so look, I'm an open book. So yeah, anybody sort of resonates or relates to any of this in the podcast and would like to have a conversation, I think, like I say, conversations do matter. So happy to hold a space.
Before we head off, I just want to leave you with something. If any of this episode resonated with you, not just logically, but properly hit something inside you, then don't ignore it. Most people do. They hear something that lands, they think that's interesting, and then they go back straight to the same routine. Nothing changes. But every now and then, you hear something at the right time. And it's not just content that you're consuming anymore. It's a signal. And it's a nudge that something in your life needs attention. And if that's where you're at right now, you don't have to figure it out on your own. And it's why I created the Legion. It's a space for business owners who are done just going through the motions, drifting year after year, and are ready to actually look at their life properly, to get clear, to be honest, and to start making changes that actually matter and benefits them. It's just real people figuring this out together. So if this episode hit home for you, come and join us inside the Legion. Link is in the description, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have you ever felt like business should be more than numbers and deadlines? Like there's an entire world to explore beyond your office walls? Is adventure calling your name? I'm Ian Whitehead, and I'm your guide on Uncharted, the Entrepreneur's Adventure podcast, where I bring you real stories from visionary leaders who've built empires and climbed literal mountains. Because success isn't just about the bottom line, it's about the thrill of taking risks, the courage to pursue what truly lights you up, and the freedom to chart your own course. Each week we'll dive deep into the minds of boundary-pushing entrepreneurs and adventurers, revealing how they found purpose in the chaos and discovered their true north, both in business and beyond. So, if you're ready to break free from the ordinary, embrace bold action and inject a little more adventure into your life, welcome to Uncharted. Your journey starts here.